Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the NFL. That's right, the Laces Out podcast is coming your way with last week's games, this week's games, and I think it's just all predictions at this point. We're predicting the games that we think are going to go down. Then we're predicting what we think is the absolute bankers for the week. Then we're predicting like an absolute banker versus an absolute outsider. Then we're going to talk about whether we're going to make any money this season. And at some point in there is actually some NFL conversation. There might be some news. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Biggest one, the bestest of all. Share that podcast around. If you know somebody that enjoys the NFL, or if you just see someone in the street wearing like a Seahawks jersey, say, hey, I once heard a podcast you might be interested in. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast. Laces Out.
Well, a place you get water. But besides that, myself and my glamorous co-host, Mr. Paul Williams, are here to talk NFL football. That's right, it is the CookieCast Laces Out podcast. We are here, no guest. One of these days, one of us will think, should probably get a guest. That is not today. That is not this week. That is not this set of games. We are here on week 4. I know it's episode 4. We're into week 4. Did we do a pre-week?
We'll be ticking into week 4.
Ticking into week 4. I should know what week it is because I'm 0-3 in our fantasy league. That's right. I am the Jets, the Dolphins, or another team that's doing as shit as I am. Luckily for everybody involved, I did win in the other league for the first time. So 1 out of 6 games. Anyway, enough about fantasy. Because
for those of you not watching on YouTube, Mr. Cook was taking a very, very nice victory sip there.
A victory sip from some company as yet to sponsor the podcast. Wink, wink. My favourite beverage, if sponsored. I would drink it every week if sponsored. Anyhow, so a week in the bag, and it's been fairly standard. I think the only real change this week was a small team, a little team, tiny little team, like to dress in like red and stuff. Decided that apparently it was time to get a win. As a certain team decided to go 1-2 this week, which sure that'll get covered off at some point. We have stats to go through for week 3. We have predictions to go through for week 3. We have side bet, an actual bet, and a bonus bet. To be revealed bonus bet. A little peek behind the curtain. I've already done the as known top and tail for this podcast, where I mentioned that somewhere between all of the betting we do, we actually talk about NFL football, just a smidge, because it's become very much the how much money can we make this season podcast. So, as we like to do, we like to start by finishing, both in the bedroom and in the podcast. So we are going to go over to the book. Mr. Williams is going to say, well, one of us won, one of us lost, or the ultimate, we had our first draw.
It will happen at some point. I am absolutely certain that there will be a tie.
I'm guessing it's not going to be this week, because some of the picks I put in this week, I was like, yep, rolling the dice on that one. And I don't think Paul's going to be rolling the same dice as me. So
to say there were a distinct addition of 50-50 shots would be an understatement this week.
There was a point where I was like, Paul's going to get these predictions and be like, fuck are you smoking? And I'm going to be like, it's meth.
Listen, we'll see. But that's obviously a week. That's a week 4 problem. And at the moment, we're still discussing week 3. So,
yes,
week 3's game. Still, as it's early doors, we've still got a full slate of 16 games. After this week, I believe
you are right. I believe we see our first bye coming in like week 5.
I think so. That's what it was last
early.
I believe early. The Eagles. Well, I was going to say, I think from watching America's game of the Eagles from last season, I believe they had a week 5 bye. So obviously, it was very important that they got their number 1 seeding in the. No, they didn't get the number 1 seeding. I do apologise. So they played from week 6 all the way through to the Super Bowl. Well, with the week break for the Pro Bowl, I suppose.
Oh. So then go on and win it.
Pretty impressive. It's a big old long shift if you look at it that way. So 16 games, 16 sets of predictions for myself, Mr. Cook. A varying degree of differences. So should have involved at least a definite answer, one way or another, as to who got the week's win. However, it basically came down to the last game of the week, as we found ourselves tied on 10 points apiece going into the Lions-Ravens game. So I'll just go through the ones that we didn't get correct. So we both had the Falcons to beat the Panthers. Oh dear. We both had the Packers to beat the Browns. Oh dear. We both had the Bengals to beat the Vikings. Oh dear. The Cowboys to beat the Bears was the other one that we both agreed on. And then separately, Andy had the Texans to beat the Jags, whereas I had the Jags. And I had the Cardinals to beat the 49ers, whereas Andy had the 49ers. So, across the board there, that gave us each 5 incorrect answers. So it went in to the Monday Night Football Lions at Ravens game. So, who picked which way? Long-term viewers and
I already know the answer because I know of which of those 2 teams you absolutely despise. It's the one that Jason Kelce plays in the band for.
So, yes, long-time viewers and listeners will not be surprised to hear that I picked the Lions to defeat the Ravens. And I was steadfast in my conviction of that, and I was thoroughly rewarded. So, with the win and 11 of 16 selections correct, it is Mr. Paul Williams. Sadly for Mr. Cook, only 10 selections correct, as he was foolish enough to back the Ravens. I believe, as he already alluded to, dropping the Ravens to 1-2 on the season, and not with an easy gimme game in week 3. Week 4, by any means of the imagination. So, we shall see what happens there. All that means is that I took the win, so I moved to 2-1, the weekly standings. But I know what everyone's wanted to know. They wanted to know how many overall the both of us have correct. So 48 so far games to predict. I have 34 of 48 selections correct, so I've missed so far on 14. Andy, despite being behind in the overall standings, has actually got one more correct than the overall, as you have 35 of 48 selections correct. So it is what I thought, that there is a distinct possibility that one of us could win the overall
with less prediction.
With less correct predictions.
Yay!
So we'll see. It should.
Yay for
you would imagine that it will. You'd imagine that it will sort of balance itself out at some point during the course of the season, but it might be that we just see that sort of come to pass. Side bet wise, Andy went into this off the back of a clean sweep last week, so he's 7 of 8, and I am 6 of 8, as I have got one wrong each week so far. Can Mr. Cup carry on that trend with a full 4 out of 4? Well, he started well, as he had the Chiefs to beat the Giants. He also had the Seahawks to beat the Saints, and the Colts to beat the Titans. So 3 from 3 first so far. Can he make it a clean sweep? He picked the only team to not score points. He did, in fact, pick the Falcons to beat the Panthers as part of his side bet. So, sadly, his clean sweep 4 from 4 did not happen this week, and he has to settle 3 from 4, moving into 10 points from a possible 12. And that also means that I would need a clean sweep 4 from 4 to be able to put myself also on 10 from 12. I started off well. I had the Bills to beat the Dolphins on the Thursday Night Football, so I get a point for that. I had the Buccaneers to beat the Jets. It took them a while and a last-minute field goal to win it, but they did. I had the Commanders to beat the Raiders. They were relying on the backup, Mr. Mariota, but he got it done.
He certainly did.
And then, of course, I had the absolute nailed-on banker of the week. The Green Bay Packers to beat the Browns.
Oh, no.
So I, too, fall at the final hurdle and only get 3 of 4 selections correct. So I move to 9 from 12. I'm batting at a solid 75% a week.
Speaking of, big shout out to Marcus Mariota, because honestly, doesn't look like he's missed a step. Looked pretty good, certainly stepping in as a backup and really sort of, doing the business. We have a lifelong Marcus Mariota fan in our house, so, she was like that for the old jersey. She was like, yay, bringing it out of retirement, boys.
Yeah, but it's a jersey of a team that he no longer plays for.
That's not the important thing. That's not what matters. It's a Mariota jersey. You can still wear it. It's still relevant, like he is, apparently.
It's still relevant in her mind, God damn it.
Absolutely.
So yes, so all that leaves us to do is to know whether or not we are now a little bit better off. The short answer is no.
You know what? I think it's safe to say the answer's always going to be.
Well, it is and it isn't. So on this one, this was, shall I say, we were not screwed out of a win this week, but we were done over by last minute, not shenanigans as such, but last minute goings on, shall we say. So let's have a look. Where have you gone? Now I can't seem to find the actual bet that was settled, but the bankers that we had were the Chiefs to beat the Giants and the Bills to beat the Dolphins. They obviously came in. They were not the issue.
No dramas.
I then had the Cardinals to beat the 49ers, which they were doing until I believe the final 15 seconds or so. And I've taken the Rams to beat the Eagles, which they had a last-second field goal to do However, the Eagles blocked said last-minute field goal.
Yeah, they did.
And turned it into a touchdown of their own to emphatically win the game. So it's yet another week where, unfortunately, we have no pennies going into our bank account.
Technically, that's not true.
Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's the segment we've all come for. Come on, talk me through it.
Okay, so I decided, for a bit of fun, for a bit of lightheartedness, for a little bit of, I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, I thought I'd like spice the games up by having a little bit of money. Yeah, it wasn't that. However, I realized the error of my ways immediately. So I decided to take the pennies, and that's not an exaggeration, actual pennies that were in my betting account. And I said, right, the challenge is this. I'm going to pick 3 games, 3 absolute nailed on games. I am going to do an accumulator for 3 teams to win. I'm going to put a very small amount of money on those 3 teams to win. If they win, I will take the winnings from that bet and roll it into the next week. So let's see how well we did straight out of the gate. Because when I was like, oh, I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, let's spice things up a bit. That is, I want that screen. Okay. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the New York Jets. Now, I got that, but the fact that I was stood in the living room, supposed to be going upstairs to do something relatively, normal, going, come on. Baker's going to get it done. Baker's our guy. Come on, Baker's and the whole time going, this is a terrible thing for somebody like me. I needed the Seattle Seahawks to beat the New Orleans Saints. Check. And what at the time on paper was in a little bit of a kind of an outsider, I needed the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the New York Giants. Now then, as we know, all 3 of those came in, so it was a win. And my 50p bet netted me £1.07. So I've taken the £1 of my £1.07 winnings, and I have rolled it into this week's bet. Now then, so we don't jinx anything, I'm going to keep that powder dry. I will say this: first game of the week, easy. Second game of the week, easy. Third game of the week, shit. I went up and down that list going, I need a bank. I need an absolute net, to the point where I went, can I just go with 2 games and break my own rules from the start? So I was like, no, because the point is, it's to challenge me to find 3 bankers. So the last game I have picked on the numbers. Like I say, I'll keep the powder dry just for some sort of obscure superstition, and I will let you know next week what the outcome is. And my intention, as I was saying to the stats mistress, my intention is to see how far I can roll that money. Because the principle being is that it was, in theory, kind of just about double each week in some ways, maybe, depending on the horrific odds that I get. I mean, let's face it, some of the odds I'm getting are like 1 to 3. Not making a lot of money, but it is a treble. So, speaking of the stats mistress, She said, "Here you're in the market for some stats." And I said, that's right. That's generally what happens every week during the NFL season. And she said, "I'll get back to you." And then at some point today, I was like, those stats we discussed. She was like, "I'll get to it." NFL Week 3, 2025 stats. Credit again only to USA Today Sports. We've added an additional bit. These are the juiciest of the stats, but not many of them. I gave Paul the lion's share, however, not by word count. Because, oh boy, I'm going to need a drink. Number 1, Green Bay Packers running back Josh Jacobs broke his 11-game streak on Sunday, including playoffs, of scoring at least once on the ground. The 6th longest in league history. Adding insult to injury, Jacobs averaged just 1.9 yards on his 16 carries, the worst output of his 7-year career, when he had at least 12 attempts, as the Pack was shocked 13-10 on the road by the Cleveland Browns. I said this, and I don't know that anybody's going to agree, believe, whatever, but I said it, and I'm going to say it again. As I said to the stats mistress, I don't think it should be allowed to lose a game for 3.5 quarters and then be like, "Oh shit, are we playing? Oh, right, well, let's go out there and win, shall we?" So, Number 2, CB, Isaiah Rodgers. Yep, I'm triple checking that. Isaiah Rodgers. Becoming the founding member Sunday as the only Minnesota Viking player ever to score 2 defensive touchdowns in a single game. The most dominant Mr. Rodgers in the league on this day. He returned an interception, 87 yards for a score, and brought a fumble back 66 yards for another in a 48-10 blowout of the Cincinnati Bengals. For good measure, Rodgers caused 2 fumbles, including the one he returned, and broke up 2 passes. He's the first player since 2000 with 2 touchdowns and a pair of forced fumbles in the same game. Those stats are mental.
I do quite like the fact that he would have probably outscored most fantasy players on his own.
Yes.
With that stat line. So.
I again on the day I was talking about, I'm not a fan of when you're supposedly playing a team game and one of your team players goes down. Like it's like if your manager phoned in sick one day and you were like, "Well, this entire place is going to shit then because we can't do our jobs." If that was the case, then like companies would crumble all over the place. So why is it that like NFL franchises like this guy, he's got a bum toe, so we're all going to be shit? That cool? That good? Sweet. Number 3, speaking of Rodgers, Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers now ranks alone with the 4th most touchdown passes in league history, 510, after breaking his tie with Brett Favre, 508, on Sunday. Rodgers needs to get hot in order to catch Peyton Manning, 539, who is 3rd on the list this season. Rodgers also surpassed Philip Rivers for the 6th most passing yards, 63,538 in league history. I watched one of those graphics that does the like the people move. I watched a graphic today by the NFL of the passing yard, and it was the fact that Aaron Rodgers enters the picture at a certain point in time and then starts moving up the list. Gets so far, stops. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, all pass him. Their numbers stop, and he then starts going back. I was like, fucking Rodgers, man. This is not on the stats, but I have been reminded of something I heard podcast this week, which was, do you know, and I can do this because I know you can't look it up without using your mind. Do you know who has the most passing yards as a quarterback in college football history?
Right. College. This is either going to be some sort of like, it's either going to be like a really famous name, or it's going to be one of these like situations where it's a guy who manages to sort of like play for sort of like a ridiculously long time or something like that.
Okay, I'll give you a couple of pieces of information. They, in theory, won't change anything. The number is 20,000 yards. They went undrafted, and at 37 years old are still in the league.
It's definitely a quarterback. Quarterback that was undrafted. Back up somewhere?
Now we're talking.
37-year-old backup.
I know him well because one of the years that I had a particular Madden, anytime I started a new fantasy, whatever the fantasy version on Madden is, I always got this person as my quarterback. In when you open the packs, where right as the start, I always got this person as my starting quarterback. I was like, all right, fine, whatever. I'll trade up at some point.
So 37. So he must have been in like a draft class of like say the late 2000s.
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting there.
Okay, at the age of 37, current team is the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, it would help if I knew who the fucking Bears' backup quarterback was. No, I don't think I'm getting this one.
Houston Texans, Buffalo Bills, Cleveland Browns, Washington Commanders, Denver Broncos. Has essentially taken a backup position at nearly every team. Like he takes a 1-year deal and has basically played for every team.
Trevor Siemian?
No, it is Case Keenum.
Interesting.
Heard that on a podcast the other day. I was like, wow. And yeah. In fact, it's right here. All-time leading passer with 19,217 yards and 155 touchdowns, and went undrafted. Reason being, apparently where he played, the school he went to, was in a low division. So getting that number of yards wasn't hard. And apparently, when he was scouted, his scouting report was like his throw didn't have a lot of zip. He wasn't rated high enough to get drafted, so went undrafted and basically spent his entire career as a backup. I think I've seen him play like a handful of times. I seem to remember him playing a little bit for the Vikings, like actually playing for the Vikings. But yeah, so you've got some lovely stats for us. Delicious stats.
Yes, I do. So I will start us off with 3 backup quarterbacks not to choose on Sunday. The Viking Carson Wentz, Washington Commanders Marcus Mariota, and San Francisco 49ers Matt Jones, all getting fill-in W's for the injured J. McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, and Brock Purdy, respectively. Speaking of backup quarterbacks, the Atlanta Falcons' Kirk Cousins will apparently remain one, for now at least, even though he's making $27.5 million this season and was called in to take over a highly ineffective second-year QB1 Michael Penix Jr. on Sunday, as the Falcons were blown out 30-0 by the previously winless Carolina Panthers. 6 teams now remain undefeated, and they are the Chargers, the Bills, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Bucks, and perhaps most surprisingly of all, the Indianapolis Colts. All have improved to 3-0. On the downside, 6 teams also going to week 4 winless, and they are the Texans, the Jets, the Titans, the Dolphins, the Saints, and the Giants. And my final start, and the final start of the week, to put a nice bow on week 3. Tampa Bay, which has started 2-0 each of the past 5 seasons, is now 3-0 for the first time since 2005. Baker Mayfield getting things done in Tampa Bay, shall we say?
Baker is the man. I saw this super random stat. I was like, that stat does not work in any way, shape, or form. They're like, by the way, if Baker had stayed at Cleveland, he would now be their number 1 all-time passer. Like that, you don't know that for sure. He might not. He would have been at the Browns, so probably wouldn't have got the chances, probably wouldn't have got the opportunities, probably would have got injured somewhere along the line. So that's the most hypothetical stat I think I've ever heard. It's like, yes, he could have also won a Super Bowl. Let's go with that, shall we? Won all the Super Bowls since he left Cleveland. How about that? Let's say that. Silly. So that's all the business from week 3 taken care of. Big, juicy, red.
Week 3 done and dusted.
I'm thinking purple this week for our boat. I do enjoy a purple. So we're going to step away. I have gone through nearly all of my drinks, and that doesn't work for me. I am paid by the drop. So we're going to take a small interlude to recharge, and then we're going to dive head first into week 4, where we will find out who's playing who we think is going to win, what our side bet looks like, what this week's bet looks like, and any other business. So don't go changing, and we will be right back. Wow, I mean, blink and you miss it, or what? Yes, indeedy. We are back, and we are here to predict a week. I believe it's 4. Definitely is. It's week 4, where I will go 0-4. Can't wait. Big fan. Me. The Jets. The Dolphins. No, the Dolphins. Oh, wait, no. They are absolutely not winning this week. So that's 0-4 for the Dolphins. The Jets will beat Darwin. Anyway, so I know for a fact I sent you predictions. I know for a fact you will have filled in the book. So you can inform us of what that looks like. Then we start getting in it. We've got some side bet. That's where the real work starts, the real money. And speaking of money, we'll talk some bets. So, how far away are we from each other this week? Because,
well, there's actually probably a few more differences than you think. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 11 consensus picks. So that means there has to be a result. It's just dawned on me. So we have 5 differences of opinion.
that is about what I was like. I think it was even when I predicted the first game, I was like, probably going to be a difference there. And it just went like that. I was like, I'm going to put this down. I don't imagine Paul will agree with me. There was a game where I was like, I'm going to predict this, rightly or wrongly. I was like, we might get into one of the games and my reasoning behind my insanity. But anyway, talk us through those differences.
Well, week 4 starts, as all of the weeks start these days, with a Thursday night clash. And it is an interdivisional match as the Seattle Seahawks travel to the desert of Arizona to take on the Cardinals. And despite Arizona having the home field advantage, both myself and Mr. Cook have taken the Seahawks to get the victory. So, obviously, that's where we'll start with a huge Cardinals win to put us both right on the back foot. Next up, we have the Vikings at the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's not in Pittsburgh. This is the first NFL game, regular season game, to be played in Ireland, as Dublin will host its first ever regular season NFL game. Now, technically the Steelers are at home. They are designated as the home team. The Vikings designated as the road team. And we have our first difference of opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Cook has taken the Vikings, whereas I've gone with the Steel Curtain, baby. Don't know why. For some reason, I just fancy the Steelers travelling over.
There's a couple of things about this game. I've said a couple of times already in the weeks that I truly believe that Aaron Rodgers feels in that position. Like, I'm sure it's understandable to feel that he has a point to prove. Obviously, things didn't go very well in New York, etc., etc., etc. I don't know if I'm yet ready to get behind him in Pittsburgh. I feel like once the Rodgers-ness starts rising to the top, it's not going to be long before everybody gets sick of him, and eventually they'll just start treating him not overly well. And I don't know how quick that's going to come. So for me to say, I think the Steelers are going to get it done wherever, feels like the possibility of throwing away a pick in the fact that you've got somebody who's essentially leading the team who is unpredictable, shall we say, but whatever. The Vikings was not necessarily the most inspired choice to go against the Steelers this week, but like I say, for those reasons, that's the way I've gone. So Zumi.
So we move swiftly on to the 6 p.m. slate of games, and that starts us off with the Washington Commanders at the Atlanta Falcons. And we have both taken the Commanders, in spite of Jaden Daniels potentially missing another week, with Marcus Mariota proving that he can get the job done. No issues. Next up, oh dear, it's the New Orleans Saints on the road against the Buffalo Bills.
Just out of interest, 99% have picked the Bills on ESPN.
I am concerned about that 1%.
Has to be the one die-hard Saints fan that's like, yeah, they could definitely get it done this week against what's arguably going to be one of the Super Bowl teams. Honestly, this is I'm going to say this every week of this season until the inevitable them losing in the playoffs happens. But this is the year. If the Bills are ever going to do it, this is the year. Side note, did you see the Josh Allen on the Pat McAfee show where they tried multiple times to get him with these nuts? And you just cannot get that man with a D's nuts. He is bulletproof when it comes to it. It's like a point of pride at this point in time that he is like, nah, it's just not happening.
Amazing. Yes, surprise, surprise, we've taken the Bills. The only other thing I can think about 1% is there must be like a Bills fan out there that's sort of doing the reverse jinx thing of, has to bet against them so that the outcome will inevitably go in their way, in their favour and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Strange things have happened. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns at the Detroit Lions. We've both taken the Lions.
98%.
But again, though, it's strange in the fact that the Packers looked absolutely incredible when they blew out the Lions to open the season. Yet they then lose against the Browns. And now, let's be honest, everyone be expecting the Lions to absolutely cane the Browns. So make it make sense. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. This is a battle of 2-0-3 teams. Which one will no longer have their O? Well, me and Andy think it will be the Houston Texans, as that's who we both backed to get the win here. We also have the Carolina Panthers at the New England Patriots. And somewhat surprisingly, we've both taken the New England Patriots to get the win here.
One of the games I struggled with in some ways, because I was like, I can't pick the Panthers to win. Well, oh boy, look at the alternative. I'm going to have to put my name next to the Patriots. Part of me almost wanted to pick the Panthers just for that reason. And I was like, oh, wait, no, the Panthers are fucking garbage. So, Patriots it is, please.
2 more games left in the 6 p.m. slot. We have the Chargers traveling to New York to take on the Giants. Surprise, surprise. We've both gone with the Chargers. And then the last game of the 6 o'clock slot is arguably game of the week, or certainly one of the games of the week, because there's one coming up at the 9 o'clock slate that I can see that looks a bit tasty. But it's the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
This was not an easy pick for me. My prediction, rightly or wrongly, as I keep saying, or whatever, my prediction for this season is there is a loss coming for the Philadelphia Eagles. That loss is going to be the start of a downward spiral to the point that the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm almost tempted to say, don't make the playoffs. Now, I just think we see it all the time. We see teams that go all the way, go to the dance and win and come back the next season and something's not quite, or something's off kilter. And the Eagles 3-0, great. But if we look at those 3-0 games, not exactly done and dusted. As I was saying earlier, when I needed the Bucks to win me my £1.07 as the first game of the week, Baker's going to get it done. I believe in Baker. I never used to, but I believe in Baker. So what if this week is the week where the Philadelphia Eagles take a loss, a weird, random loss, because Baker Mayfield keeps walking into press conferences like Randy with the wheelbarrow. He keeps rolling up his massive ball sack and being like, doubting me still, yeah? Carry on, because I'm just going to keep getting it done. Give a shit what you lot think. Me and my wheelbarrow are off. And then he has to struggle to get through the door. This could be the exclamation point on Baker Mayfield's season where he pins the first loss on the Eagles, takes the Bucks to 4-0, and is just like,
well, it's funny you should say that because it's another game where we have a difference of opinion.
I know what I've picked.
Mr. Cook has indeed picked the Eagles.
I absolutely have.
And I have picked the Bucks. I think that because they're at home, I think I think people have made an argument that they have struggled in some of these games, but they have obviously come through them all unscathed, and they are 3-0. I think the Eagles were closer to that loss against the Rams than they realised, and I think this might, like you say, it might be one of those games where it's just they might take their eye off it a little bit, and I think they might come up a cropper. So that's the 6 o'clocks done and dusted. We move into the 9 p.m. and 9:25 games, and it's another set of 3-0 teams going up against each other. We have the Indianapolis Colts at. Oh no! So it's not. It's absolutely not 3-0 teams going up against each other because the Rams did not beat the Eagles last week.
They did not.
I do apologize. It's the Indianapolis Colts at the LA Rams. Despite their 3-0 start, myself and Mr. Cook do fancy the Rams to end the Cinderella story of the Indianapolis Colts. More than likely with a couple of Daniel Jones interceptions and a not too good game, shall we say, would probably be my thinking. But we'll wait and see. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the San Francisco 49ers. And again, it's another game where we have a difference of opinion. I've gone with the Jags, as I quite like what I've seen from the Jags this season. I think they look pretty good. And Andy has gone with the 49ers. This next game is the other game that I said looks potentially game of the weekend. And it's the 1-2 Baltimore Ravens traveling to Kansas City to take on the 1-2 Kansas City Chiefs. So by the end of this game, one of the Ravens or the Chiefs will be sitting at 1-3. And I bet you'd have got decent odds on that at the start of the season, that one of those two teams would be sitting with a .25 record. surprise, surprise, it's another one where we've got a difference of opinion. I've gone with the Chiefs with the home field advantage, and he's gone with the Ravens with the heavy rushing favourites. I would imagine that they have.
So this was the other game where I was like, I absolutely know which you're not picking. So that's kind of that. I ummed and ahed heavily over this game. It was one of those where the smart money says take the Chiefs and go that route. There was a problem. The Chiefs are 1-2, and there's a reason they're 1-2. Because they won a game against let's face it, they were never losing that game. They could have come out with their eyes closed and one arm tied behind the back. No offense to any of the fans out there, but they weren't going to lose that game. The other two games that they did lose kind of started all the questions, started people wondering, started people thinking maybe that time is over. I think people were kind of glad they're kind of over that whole Chiefs Kingdom, yada, yada, yada. The Ravens being 1-2 feels more strange. I know you're not a fan. I know. Derrick Henry has seemed particularly quiet in the season so far, and that just feels weird. Again, it's another one of those games. Nothing says statement more than being the Chiefs. Yeah, they might not be the superpower that they once were, and by once I mean a season ago, but nothing says, we're here to do business than beating them. And I imagine the Ravens will put just that little bit more into this game than any other game. It's definitely contender for game of the week. I think nothing says more than a 1-3 Chiefs. So I think there's a lot of people that would love to see that as the outcome. Other than, your good self, obviously, for many reasons. You hate the Ravens.
Yes,
you're
my general
massive Mahomes fan.
I've got nothing against Mahomes. I think he's generational quarterback, generational talent. Let's put it that way. The final game of the 9:00 slate sees the Chicago Bears traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders, and we've both gone with the Bears. The Sunday night football this week sees the Green Bay Packers traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys, obviously taking Micah Parsons back where they traded him from. If the Cowboys were in any sort of shape of, being decent, then this would be a good game. But it doesn't look like CD Lamb will play, I don't think.
No, he didn't.
He had a high ankle sprain that he got against.
Yeah.
Who was it the Cowboys got blown out of the Bears. So don't think he'll play. They're obviously terrible on defense now. They've lost Michael Parsons. I think it's going to be a huge Packers blowout win. Andy agrees. And then we have 2 games on the Monday Night Football. Again, the late game sees the Bengals traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos.
Why did you go with the late game out of those two? I can't imagine what reason you would want to save that game till last.
We'll get to it. Don't worry about it.
Game of the week.
You don't need to worry about that. That's fine.
Game of the week.
We'll cover it. No Joe Burrow equals no Cincinnati Bengals win. In mine and Mr. Cook's eyes, it is Denver Broncos all the way, baby. So that just leaves us with the actual Monday Night Football game. I believe the game that is the
actual
broadcast. on ESPN, not shoved out to ABC or ESPN Plus or whatever it is that it's on the streaming service or things like that. It is the 0-3 New York Jets at the 0-3 Miami Dolphins. And the reason I've left it till last over the Bengals Broncos is that it is our final difference of opinion game of the week. Mr. Cook has taken the Dolphins, much to his surprise, and the look on his face, I think he's genuinely shocked that I have picked the Jets. The only reason I've picked the Jets is because I just think the Dolphins are absolutely all over the place. I know they showed a little bit of something in the game against the Bills.
They are all over the place. And honestly, they've got to stop putting their coach on the fucking screen because, my God, whatever cocktail, whatever drug regimen that man is on, holy fucking shitballs.
I have also gone with the Jets on this one because I think this could be a case of if the Dolphins don't win this one, I don't necessarily think we see Mr. McDaniel coach another game in the NFL for a period of time, shall we say.
I think there's very much a chance that he won't see week 5 if there's a loss for the Dolphins. And I also don't think I don't see him appearing anywhere else. It's one of those that I think it'll be we've parted ways, and that's the last you hear of him. I don't know what team's going to be, fighting to get him as a head coach, head shop owner, maybe head coach.
I think he's going to be one of those guys who, when he does lose his job with the Dolphins, and let's be honest, I don't see him coaching them next season. But like I said, I don't see him coaching them for the rest of this season, let alone next season. I think he'll probably pop up. He'll probably pop back up somewhere as a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, linebackers coach. He'll get a job somewhere, but it won't be.
But ironically, he'll probably end up at the Jets.
Maybe, yeah. It's a
That's the kind of team
I would think. So yes, that is our 16 picks apiece. That just leaves us with the side bet, and then of course I will give you our bet and breakdown of the odds for the bankers and outsiders for this week. So, side bet week 4, we go in again. Andy is leading. He finds himself 10 from 12, whereas I've got 9 from 12. So, because I am behind in the standings, I will take the initiative and I will have the first pick fresh off the board. And oh, there they are. How delightful. I will have the Buffalo Bills to not just beat the New Orleans Saints. I honestly, I don't think they would even need to play the stars.
I don't. I think this is a good opportunity to rest 90% of their team.
Wouldn't be surprised if Josh Allen plays the first half, and if they're up by 4 or 5 scores, we don't see him in the second half.
Yeah.
Just a thought. That leaves us over to you for your first 2 selections.
I'll take the Detroit Lions to beat the Cleveland Browns, please.
Sensible.
I will take the Los Angeles Chargers to beat the New York Giants.
Equally sensible. In that case, do I want to get burned by the Packers 2 weeks in a row? No, I don't. So I will go with the Denver Broncos to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. The Houston Texans to beat the Tennessee Titans.
No.
Bit weird that I'm going for an 0-3 team. It's a banker.
Yeah.
But, strange things have happened. Your final two, sir.
I'll take the Washington Commanders to beat the Atlanta Falcons. I know it's backup quarterback season, but I think it's probably okay to take that.
It's at the challenging ones now, isn't it?
Well, there's one I'm looking at there, but I don't think I can say the words. Ugh. There's one there, but I'm still salty about them buying a Super Bowl. So, do you know what? As you left it on the table, I will pick it up. I will take the Green Bay Packers to beat the Dallas Cowboys, please. I firmly agree with everything you laid out. Obviously, there'll be a little bit of a grudge match in some ways going on, and it seems to be season on season, the Dallas Cowboys are in a bad way. So I don't feel. Yeah, it's a bit of a risk, bit of a gamble in some ways, but I don't feel like it's a bad pick. So that would be for me.
Yeah, it was. It probably should have been one of my picks. Like I say, I didn't really want to get bounced by him twice in the space of 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I don't think they will. I think they'll comfortably take care of the Cowboys. To be fair, but you discussed it, and I think it's the sensible pick left on the table for me. So I will take the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, like we said, Colts are unbeaten, but I don't think they've really played anyone that's of us.
This was my issue. 3-0, great start, absolutely. Talks of the Colts riding an under the radar kind of season to see if they can nip into a playoff spot, etc., etc., etc. The issue is exactly what you've said there. They have not played anybody really that's going to push them. For everything I will say about the Rams, this is absolutely the team to press that. And if the Colts come out 4-0 at the end of this week, we might be onto something. Chances, I don't know. I don't see it. 71% of picks on ESPN are for the Rams in that game. Not that really means anything, but just it gives you a flavour, let's say.
So, to recap, Mr. Cook's teams, he has the Detroit Lions at home to the Cleveland Browns, the Los Angeles Chargers at the New York Giants, the Washington Commanders at the Atlanta Falcons, and the Green Bay Packers at the Dallas Cowboys. Your road teams, one home team. I have the Buffalo Bills at home to the New Orleans Saints, the Denver Broncos at home to the Cincinnati Bengals, the Houston Texans at home to the Tennessee Titans, and the Los Angeles Rams at home to the Indianapolis Colts. 4 home teams. Yeah, very nice. That just leaves us with our 2 bankers, 2 outsiders picks for the week. Now, it was Mr. Cook's turn this week to have free run overall 16 games to give me his 2, and then I was left with the scraps to pick my outsider and my banker from. Mr. Cook, as his banker, took the 1-16 Buffalo Bills. So to clarify, for those who don't gamble, to win £1, you would have to bet £16. So odds heavily in the favour of the Buffalo Bills there. My banker was the 4-11 Los Angeles Chargers at the New York Giants. Outsiders, Andy has taken the 7-2, it's not 7-2, 7-2 Cleveland Browns, and I've taken the 6-5 Pittsburgh Steelers in the early game on Sunday. Yeah, I've picked them in the sort of the week by week picks. So when I saw they were the underdog in the game, that the Vikings were their favourites, I thought, yep, I'll have a little piece of that. That will be my selection.
I like it.
So there you go. That brings us to the end of Week 4's predictions and preview. So it's just back over to Mr. Cook to put a little bow on the end of this week for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, there we go. That is Week 3 in the books, in the bag, and in the rear view. We look forward to Week 4, and we are starting some delightful international starting such, but yeah, all the way over to Dublin. What's nice is that means we get a little earlier game flavour, can start our days earlier. If you're so inclined, a little bit of day drinking, you can start your day drinking earlier and, get a couple of extras in before work on Monday.
Well, it is in Dublin, so what more of an excuse do you need to crack out a couple of cans of the black stuff?
Absolutely. I'll already be drinking cans of the black stuff, but that's because, I'm hardwired that way. So there we go. Week 4 to come. If you think these guys are mental. Sorry, no, there was more to that. If you think that we are crazy guys, and you think, do you know something? I reckon I could take these two on and not only predict better than them, I reckon I could consistently beat them week in, week out. All you have to do is drop us a line. Many different ways you can do that, but I would personally suggest the best way would be to go over to the CookieCast website, which is cookiecast.com, click the email button, which will auto-populate an email, write out the teams you think are going to win this week, send it through, Paul will add them to the book, and you will win yourself a prize. Simple as that. If you beat myself or Paul, we will send you a fantastic NFL-related prize. So much so that you'll think, did I just win a fantastic NFL prize for free just for sending an email? Hell yes! It's a true story. Where all we would ask is that you send a picture of you using your fantastic NFL prize. And there we go. That is all business taken care of. Yeah, it is. Big thank you to my co-host for keeping that book so neat and tidy, so up to date, and helping me bring you lovely people the best NFL from this side of the pond. Join us next week. Guest? Question mark? Yeah, we don't know. It's literally week in, week out. We have no idea. There might be one. Join us and find out with us if we have a guest. How about that? Until then, it's absolutely bye from me. It's absolutely bye from him. And we will catch you next time. Tatty bye.
So you're watching that. Another one done, another one gone. Big thank you to you, the watcher, the listener, the podcast digester. Does that work? And I'm sure fan of the NFL. Before you leave us, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we have social media links and an email button. That way you can get in touch with us. Send us your predictions. We'll send you a prize. Who can say better than that? That is it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye. And I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of CookieCast.